Thank you so much for participating. My name is Piotr Cipiela, and well, looking at the title, I was actually thinking that there's a competition, small competition about the longest title. So I made up the Navigating the Complex Challenges of Setting Up Efficient and Secure OT SOC Capabilities. So I hope you will like it. There's one thing that I shouldn't maybe say because it's a cybersecurity conference, but today is my birthday. So I'm treating this whole thing as a present. So, thank you so much for participating. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. OK, let's begin. I need to take a clicker, and let's go to the next one. A little bit about myself, and I just want to credentialize myself. So, asking yourself why I'm on the stage. More than 20 years of thinking experience. Currently, I hold the role of EY partner, and I'm leading the EMEA cybersecurity team. There's 4,000 people across Europe, India, Middle East, and Africa. But I think most importantly for you, I think I'm a pioneer of OT security, almost like 20 years in that field. And to be honest, it was not called OT security back in the days. It was called SCADA security or industrial control system security, and sometimes science fiction. Right? A lot of people are saying, well, it's, there's no such thing as OT security. And I have a proof for that, because around 2009, I was trying to put OT, operational technology, in Wikipedia, right? And for the 6 years till 2015, it was constantly rejected, right? I was getting information. There's no such thing as OT. It's IT, stick to IT. OT doesn't exist. And in 2015, finally I made it. So if you can even check it out, Wikipedia, before 2015, we didn't have OT back then. So that's the history. Right now, I think a lot of discussion, a lot of supporting NIST or International Society of Automation, raising awareness, and so on so forth. And also, I think I'm close to the universities. I'm a lecturer at the University of Warsaw. I'm lecturing at the University of Dallas, and also cooperating with the Oxford University. The last bullet, I will skip it. We don't have this time for this today. OK, let's jump into the cybersecurity topic. Obviously, if you're in cyberspace, it's super easy to get any sort of data, because everything is on the rise, right? More attacks, a bigger attack surface, and of course the numbers are growing very, very fast. When we are thinking about OT specifically, according to Global Cybersecurity Outlook 2024, 54% of the companies saying they have no visibility into their supply chain vulnerabilities. If you will go a step further, when we check with a number of companies, and we ask about visibility of the OT assets. It's difficult to believe, but 82% of the companies said, well, we don't have comprehensive way of getting those data. We don't have a full register. We don't actually know this to full extent, right? So if you're from a company that's saying, OK, we don't have a full data on OT assets, you're not alone. Of course, obviously, the situation is changing, but majority of companies, they are actually starting their journey in understanding what they have. And I will just pick one bullet over here. Manufacturing is, according to World Economic Forum, is the most targeted sector. And obviously, we can focus on that. But honestly, I believe the remaining 75% is even more interesting, because you will think it's power utilities and oil and gas. Reality is we have new kids on the block. We have new sectors that are starting to understand that they have industrial control systems, right? We have water, we have health, we have infrastructure, like trains, for instance. Like a lot of trains operators, airports operators, they just started to understand they have a lot of OT. So I think manufacturing is probably the most important, but the remaining is also very interesting. OK, Before we begin, I've seen a lot of different lectures about OT SOCs, and I thought it was good to actually start with theory of constraints. And theory of constraints is something like it's basically you always have some kind of limitations, right? Always, and it's very good to understand that so you can act within. You can see what is the art of possibilities, and the typical limitations you may have for OT SOC, but also for many other things, are the three following: the money, the budget. As far as I know, there's no company with unlimited budget. If there's one, let me know. I haven't my birthday today, so definitely. But it is all about OT cyber budget, right? And in many organizations, it's just a part of either IT budget or IT security budget, and it's like maybe 20% of that amount. So in terms of OT SOC budget, we probably need to understand what we have and how we can get more. But I will cover that in a second. But let's say we have some budget, time. So I remember one company, it was manufacturing company, and they basically said, well, we got bigger budget than we asked for because the board said, well, here's more money, but do it in 1 year. And obviously, it's good to have more money, but the reality is the time is always kind of a limitation for us. And we need to understand if we want to do it very quickly or we want to do it with a good quality. Obviously, you won't build nuclear power plant within a month, right? Even if you have all the money in the world. So this particular thing is important because, for instance, if you want to hire OT talents, it takes time, right? You need to talk with HR, you need to talk with a lot of candidates. They need to quit job and so on and so forth. It's like 9 to 12 months, right? So if you want something up and running very quickly, that will be one of the limitations, right? Probably you need to have someone support you. And the third thing, resources. Currently, we have like 4 million cybersecurity talents that we are lacking, right? There's a talent scarcity. If you think about OT talents, obviously this is the case as well. So you need to have someone who is like with engineering background, but also understanding the cybersecurity. So it's even more problematic. Now, bear this in mind, and we will cover some of those later on as well. Okay, so first think about OT. I don't know how many of you are OT experts or you are new to the topic. First of all, OT is different, right? Industrial control system environment is just different, right? And if someone will say it is not, don't believe them, right? It is different, and there's a number of things that are I can name, but on the screen you can see a cartoon, and the fellow over here, the very happy fellow over here, learned hard way. Sometimes like it's we want to have just very quick update, very quick patch to be applied, but we are facing something like maintenance window, right? And it can be 2 years from now. And maintenance windows they are very well planned. So even sometimes you can hear that it is you don't have you cannot really squeeze into the next maintenance window, so you need to wait 4 years. Of course, we can do something about it, but the reality is like OT space is 24/7, so we need to take this definitely into consideration. Right, there are other things. What is the difference between IT SOC and OT SOC? And obviously, there are tons of things we can think about, different protocols, different tools, and so on and so forth. But I will give you one more thing, as maybe not on the slide. Decentralization. And for the sake of this let's say speech, I would assume that in most of the cases we have decentralized or maybe not very well connected sites. Usually each site is separate kingdom, right? So you will have different architecture, you will have different way of working, and different configuration, and so on and so forth. And sometimes if you have like a smaller sites, they have a bigger problem. And just one example, we have a situation we were asked to support one of the sites that was very successful cybersecurity attack. The whole site was down, and they asked us actually to help them to recover. And the reason they asked us, it was because they didn't have any backups of the configuration, right? So they asked our engineers to step in and basically help them out in, getting those systems back up and running. Terrible, manual work, really, not recommending to go for it. However, what we said also after that was, well, let's do a lessons learned, right? So let's have this case and let's just show it to all the sites, right? They have 40 sites, so we invite everyone and say, like, look, this is why it happened, right? That was a vulnerability, that was incident handling that wasn't really working, and then obviously without the configuration backups, we couldn't really get back to life in longer period of time. And we are describing this, and one of the gentlemen just raised his hand and said, like, this is exactly right. This is exactly right. We had very similar situation 6 months ago, right? But we were able to spot it. The one production line, was down, but we were able to stop it. We were able to separate that, and we had some backups of configuration, so we will be able to recover quite quicker. And obviously that was great, but I said, okay, so why didn't you share that among others, right? Why? I mean, like, if you would do that, probably we will not having this session today, because either we will get rid of vulnerability, or we will have better prepared in terms of backup and restore procedures and having this done. So communication is very important. It seems obvious, but sometimes it's not, right? And I will cover that also in details. Again, for simple, kind of a simplification, here's 3 types of OT SOCs, right? Starting from the one that is called, IT or IT/OT SOC, so combined one, or Super SOC, sometimes like cool name, so Super SOC. And if you look at the people process technology, we have one team. Of course, we have dedicated, people resources that with OT background, with OT knowledge. So that's important part. Processes, unification of processes, right? So we have one incident response. We have one process around everything, but we have dedicated procedures. We have dedicated playbooks for OT. That's a very important one. And technology, we are leveraging as much as possible the IT solutions, but at the same time we have OT solutions as well, right? So that's a Super SOC. The hybrid one is where we have IT SOC already established. But for some reason, let's say, we don't have time, we don't have budget, we don't have resources, we sometimes either set it up separately, or we ask third party to run this for us, right? So we have the OT SOC being, let's say, supported externally. However, it reports, let's say, into the IT SOC, so it's like they are cooperating, but they are separated ones. And the last but not least, let's say, separate OT SOCs. And over here, I've seen a lot of different separate OT SOCs. Well, in one organization, I've seen 7 different. Every single business line, they have their own OT SOC. A lot of budget needed, so I don't think it's a very common thing. There's a lot of benefits, obviously, right? Because you have dedicated people. Obviously, you have procedures that are very much close to the industrial control system environment. And the last thing, you have a dedicated technology. So it's a lot of benefits. Reality is, and that's why I was talking about tariff constraint, it is very difficult to maintain it because you will always face some kind of challenges, either resources or budget. So typically, we start with separated OT SOC, and then we are finishing with Super SOC. And I would probably recommend to go that way to make sure that you would address OT specifics, right? If you extend IT SOC into OT SOC, it's obviously it's possible, but it's difficult because you will have a lot of temptation of using IT ways. And believe me, if you will call any vendor and you will ask, are you addressing OT? They will say definitely, absolutely, 100%, 100%. Like, but what is OT again? But that is the situation we are facing. So it's better to double check. The very simple test is asking if you are supporting Windows XP. Right? If the answer is like no one is using this anymore, well, OT is using this a lot, right? So this is a simple test to your vendor. Okay, so we have challenges. I have 7 challenges and how to overcome them. The first one is actually to have a SPOC on the site, right? So single point of contact sounds super easy, but reality is that if you have incidents on the OT, and it's picking up by your SOC, right? If you understand that this is basically industrial control system related, in 80% of the time, this will come back to the site, right? So if you need to change a new firewall rule or you need to change some application, PLC, whatever, it will come back to the site. It's very rarely that you can actually do it centrally. So what you need is someone who can help you navigate on those sites, so who knows how the site works, the people, the vendors, and so on and so forth, right? So it's very, actually crucial to have this person. If it's from IT, that's fine. Probably it's much better if it's an engineering person, because he or she will know the people on the shop floor. So the closer to shop floor, the better for you. So that's the first one. Of course, they have a lot of different hats, so it's always a little bit difficult to get additional roles. But then you need to have, let's say, empowerment from the organization to do that. So first thing, have a SPOC. Just make sure that you know who to call, right, on the site and navigate. Second one, let's say we have the SPOC, right, but we need to change something, right? We are seeing that, like malware spread or anything. If you need to change things like, the firewall rules, for instance, you can contact your SPOC. But at the same time, you need to have empowerment and you need to have a proper governance in place, just to make sure that you know how to change it. Otherwise, there's a lot of situation when you will get in response, but we don't know who is responsible for that. No, this system has no owner. Okay, there was a third party, they are not here anymore, or this system, well, we don't know. I mean, it's working, so nobody knows what to do with that. Happens a lot of time. So in that case, you need to have a way of actually understanding the decision making on each site, and again on each site rather than on one site, because each site is different. So decision making process, change management process, making sure that there's empowerment and support from site head or global engineering. So every single time we are having this kind of conversation, it's actually super important to know who are our clients. Okay, so OT knowledge. OT knowledge on the SOC side. This is probably the most common problem we are facing. That we have well-established SOC. It's working pretty well, and now we are trying to extend it to OT. And one of the things is that we are having current staff, and we are trying to train people, like 15 minutes over the break with what OT is, and that's it. The reality is we need much more than that, right? So we need really someone who understands, who are working on the shop floor, who understand the specifics. Otherwise, a lot of alerts it's going unnoticed. We are actually, ignoring some stuff, and a lot of problems actually coming from that. And I'm talking about, real trainings. So real trainings with incident response, with like how OT SOC works, what is the, shop floor, and so on and so forth. Sometimes shadowing. This is actually crucial. Otherwise, we will not be able to recognize what's going on over there, right? And simple things, like if you have a laptop is sending emails to everyone in IT, that's probably okay. Maybe he's sending invitation for something. But in OT space, simple things like, PLC is trying to contact the different SCADA system, that should scare you, right? Super, usually PLC is just talking to one SCADA system. If it's talking with others, that may be something strange. And a lot of successful cyber attacks on OT space actually started with changes in the configuration, so it's good to understand that. Okay. Next one is effective monitoring and prevention. We can spend a lot of time on that, but I would just focus on one specific point, actually on the tools. And from my perspective, it's very difficult, if it's not impossible, to actually have effective OT SOC without dedicated tools. And one of the basic tools and kind of like things that you definitely need to have is industrial IDS. Right? Industrial IDS, so like dedicated tool that will understand, for instance, OT environment, understand the protocols, the special protocols you have over there, not the IT ones, and also that will help you out understanding your environment. And I started with asset visibility. The thing is, most of the companies, right? Most companies, they don't have the full list of the OT assets, and obviously you want to monitor all of them, right, or most of them. And there's a huge difference between the perception of what how many that the company thinks how many assets they have to the actual number. Sometimes like 2 or 3 times more. An example I'm sharing, it's actually probably will give you the sense of it. So we were asked to deploy the industrial IDSs on the site, and before we come over there, we said, how many OT assets do you have? And they said, well, we have 200. I said, okay, 200, fine, right? Went over there, and we discovered 4,000. Okay, 4,000. So 20 times more. So think about it. Sometimes you are not even aware, and you can have like 90, 95% of the assets not managed and go unnoticed. Of course, that's extreme, but usually like 40%, 20% assets are not registered. We don't know about the existence. And when you started to actually dig, you understand the whole environment. Obviously, in terms of speeding this up and making sure that the industrial IDS is fit for your purpose, I would highly recommend to test it up in your testing environment. You have one, or the OT laboratory. We have one solely for the purpose of checking if like certain IDS is working with certain certain environments. So highly recommended. If you don't have it, plan it, and deployment should be as let's say as smooth as possible. And before that, just check out your environment and what kind of systems you are using. Okay, access to loss sources. Again, sounds super simple, but again, we have different sites. In each site, we have different architectures, we have different configurations, and so forth. Even I mean, sometimes we have a situation when we have very similar systems, right, or similar architecture, even data hierarchy, but the configuration is different, and therefore, when we are gathering the logs, when we are gathering all the information, it seems like a noise, or seems like it's difficult to read something about it. And like from OT SOC perspective, you can have a lot of, you can be overwhelmed, right, with that. And obviously it can lead to ignoring the alerts, right? Again, very common things to have. How to overcome that? Well, there is a temptation, and that's actually not bad, to gather this all, have a data lake or some kind of like AI-driven approach to clean the data centrally. And I think it's fine, but to be honest, what is working really well is trying to clean the data closer to the shop floor, to the production. Especially if you deploy the industrial IDSs, it's very important to actually have a process of fine-tuning, right? So you don't need to do it, like overnight. You don't need to do it like in the first weeks or months. But actually, if you set this up and try to do the fine-tuning, you will have a better data. You will remove a lot of false positives, and actually whatever will go to the SOC will be much better. So highly important. Obviously you will get a lot of different data from your environments, but you can clean it, and obviously you can have a lot of better data eventually. So access to logs. Playbooks. Again, something that I've kind of mentioned at the very beginning, especially if you have a super SOC, dedicated playbooks. Okay, and playbooks about the how to deal with incidents, how to actually behave in the OT environment, how to contact the site, how to talk about it, but also playbooks related to use cases and also systems. And Obviously, you can have all sorts of OT systems. And the usual thing I'm hearing from the company saying, well, we have all sorts of systems, all vendors, everything, right? That's actually normal, right? That's actually normal. But you can identify which systems are maybe more common, more important than others, right? And then start from that, focus on that. Having support from the sites, because there's always, in most of the cases, you will find a person who is more skilled, more knowledgeable in some of the, for instance, the type of PLCs, and he or she can help out in building the playbook. They can help in making sure that you will do it in the proper way. Of course, taking the consideration, sensitivity of data or criticality. So you can have the same PLC, controlling the gates and controlling your critical process, right? So in those cases, in terms of gate, you can probably put the guard and stop open the gates or close the gates and do it manually and do something with PLC. In terms of critical system, this is a little bit different, right? So the playbook should definitely take this into consideration. So dedicated ones are important, and also the knowledge management and how you get people support you in this creation of a playbook. And last but not least, spread it across. Make sure that if you have a lessons learned and you learn something from my side, it is spread across the others. And last but not least, definitely leadership support, especially the CISO support. We are seeing, let's say, evolution of CISO, right? So if you you're one once or you work with one, it is, I wouldn't say less technical, but it's like going very close to business. 9 out of 10 times CISO are actually summoned into the board meeting. It's about business, not really technical stuff, right? So 9 out of 10. So obviously we have more and more discussion that is like business related. So why OT is so important, why it's actually impacting the reputation, financial, but also things like safety, right? And over here, why this is important to have a support, because this CISO can help you out in getting empowerment, understanding, but also budgets. So I've mentioned at the very beginning that sometimes you will not have budget for OT SOC, right? And then what I've seen in terms of like very skillful CISOs, they can actually talk, if they don't have their own budget, they can talk with IT, or they can talk with infrastructure, or they can talk with engineering, or they can talk with like anyone else, and actually get the budget, because they can really translate this to business value and actually translate that OT is a key, is a crown jewel of most of the companies. And what I've seen, I think one of the budget we were able to gather was like from 7 different departments, right? So 7 different departments are actually giving us part of their budget to build it up. So CISO is super important. And one more thing, there's also a trend that we are seeing CISOs being hired from, let's say, very mature sectors. So for instance, like financial sector or banking sector, we have very, like say, skillful CISOs. They're being hired into the production companies because, like they want to have someone who can actually do this, whatever we said. And this is like obviously an opportunity for all of us, because he or she needs to understand what is OT, what is industrial control systems. We cannot overwhelm him or her, right? But I would highly recommend to get them into the shop floor, make them understand why this is different, why we need to apply this in a different way, how, why this like small, PLC can actually impact the whole organization. So this is where I think it's important when we can like really have a good friend in the CISO space, and also like help in understanding. Okay, I'm seeing the time. Right. So we've talked about types of a SOC, right? So how we can build it. It can be super SOC, can be hybrid mode, it can be separated. I think all of them are good, but basically they have pros and cons. Obviously, I think the more integrated, the better. But we need to think about the specifics about OT. From the people perspective, there's a lot of things, right? So definitely we need trainings. We need to have dedicated people, but also this connection between SOC and sites is super important, right? The communication is a key, and obviously understanding the processes on the site. In terms of technologies, obviously, the dedicated technologies are out there. I'm not saying IT technologies are not, fit for purpose. We are having more and more IT solutions actually really covering OT, right? Like endpoint protection and others. But it's always good to test it out, and it's always good to have dedicated OT solutions for your SOC. If you don't have it, I think it's very difficult to actually have an effective OT SOC. Second thing is dedicated approach, right? So whenever you are just trying to, take the procedures and processes, and instead of IT, just put like IT/OT, yeah, it's a good start. Definitely not enough. So try to have a dedicated approach. If you don't have it, you have a knowledge in your organization, reach out to your peers, you reach out to communities. I think there's a lot of knowledge right now out there, and everyone is, I think, very well, open to share the knowledge. And the last point, communication. It's a key. I think both from IT to OT, but also we are saying OT, but it's engineering. Sometimes it's shop floor, sometimes it's infrastructure. Having some government bodies, having the meetings, sharing the experience. I think it's important, but also going outside of your organization, right? So like being a bigger community, or making sure that you are reaching out to something sector specific support. One more thing, I've learned that I need to say AI somehow. So definitely we can use AI to speed up some and support OT SOC build out. And I'm not joking. Actually, using machine learning or AI on OT is it's very, I wouldn't say easy, but OT is actually very simple, right? So if you know your environment, it's very rarely something is changing, right? So if you understand the data flows and other stuff, something is changing over there. You can really quickly track it. So just ticking the box over here. So that's it for now. Now we can have a Q&A session, but I would say good luck with building your OT SOC.